I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers want
So
it.
this week's episode was kind of unique in a lot of different ways. I had the privilege of interviewing a dear friend of mine, Deb Berruti Knight. Not only interviewing her, but us having a Zoom conference call where I am in Couture, Montenegro, struggling with my network signal. I've got a duck quacking in the background to her, or she's in the Western Sahara. She's in Niger, and she's an occupational therapist. And this week's focus is really kind of on the realities of change that happen, the different shifts that we go through in life and how we respond to them. And Deb really popped in my mind and was kind of heavy on my heart, where she spent and invested close to 10 years working as an occupational therapist at a clinic in Niger, and has seen things and experienced things we couldn't even wrap our heads around. Working with burn victims, people who are suffering and hurting, dealing with resources and lack of resources, and getting creative and making limbs and prosthetics for people, that she's essentially saving lives in so many different forms, not only saving lives, but continuing and enhancing people's lives through what she's doing as an OT. And with that, in the next 5 weeks, she's going to be, her and her husband, James, things are transitioning and shifting where she's actually going to be relocating back to the States. James is British. He's starting seminary in Colorado. So life is changing, and change can be huge. Change can be overwhelming, but it's all about how we look at it, and it's how we respond. Because sometimes when we know change is inevitable, we can kind of sit still and allow what we maybe were supposed to, what boat we were supposed to get on, to pass. And there can be repercussions with that. And sometimes it's the lack of knowing what full experience you had ahead of you in life because you didn't jump on the boat, if you will. So I have Deb here today talking about change, the power of change, our reaction to change. And with that also, kind of hand in hand, we kind of got into the power of the reality, importance of kindness, as well as girl power. I am one who really believes we have so many females out there struggling with self-image and being given this skewed definition of what a healthy female is when it's not healthy, and the focus is on the external instead of the internal. And I really consider Deb kind of a superhero, if you will. She is the essence of role model for our young women when it comes to ambition, when it comes to character, integrity, kindness, compassion. And so taking some time with her and asking her, what does girl power look like? What does a healthy woman look like? And to be able to kind of sit down and chat with somebody that has so much insight and so much wisdom to lend was really an honor of mine. And I know you're going to get a lot out of today's episode. And I really encourage you to pass this along to your kids, to friends and family members, because everybody can get something out of this. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'm super excited to be a continued part of the Mental Health News Radio Network, and just taking every day as a gift. So tune in and enjoy, my friends.
All right, so today I am extremely stoked to have one of the most amazing humans I've kind of been fortunate enough to cross paths with, Deb Berruti Knight, who is rad, and we are chatting she's in Niger, I'm in Montenegro, but no one would know that oceans separate us. So I want to say welcome, Deb, and I know you're.
Thanks.
Thank you. And so you are an occupational therapist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And where are you presently living right now?
We are currently in Niamey, which is the capital of Niger.
Okay. And so if I were to ask you, just to give our listeners a little bit of background with you, what kind of led you to being an occupational therapist? And if you kind of want to connect the dots, ultimately led you to Niger.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. And so I was volunteering at a local hospital. And one day this woman comes in, was there on a Saturday, and she was making tea with her patient. And we were doing all kinds of exercises. Our guy was in a lot of pain, and her patient just was having a good old time. And I said, how come they get to play and we're over here working? And they said, oh, that's the occupational therapist. That's what she does. And so I said, oh, that's what I want to do. So I did some more research and realized it was a better fit because occupational therapy is all about quality of life,
Okay.
not just being able to walk, not just being able to move your joints and lift things, but to actually function in your everyday life. So being able to move around your house independently, being able to get in and out of a car and drive yourself to work and do your job and raise your family and engage in your community despite having a major injury or illness or some kind of disability that prevents that our environment and our culture sort of block from being able to happen.
Okay.
So I wanted to do that. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And but I ended up in Niger through an organization called SIM and working at a little mission hospital in the middle of nowhere.
Your pictures, I mean, literally, it's like the middle of nowhere. I'm like, wow, but it's the beautiful middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous middle of nowhere. No, it's true. It can be very desolate and at times it's hard to find beauty, but it really is an amazing country. The people are so remarkable and beautiful.
But you are somebody who's extremely reserved with how you talk about what you do. I mean, I've kind of, obviously we've known each other for a number of years and following what you do. What kind of, you give people a second chance at life a lot of times in terms of mobility. And I've watched some of the things as that you've done as an OT created essentially. I'm like, what? Like if you were to kind of walk someone through the patients that you see, what you were able, your clinic's able to do for them, what would that look like?
So my specialty is in burn care. And here in Niger, there's very little burn care available to patients. So while in the hospital we were working in, I did everything. I would see any diagnosis, but my heart is really in burn care. So traditionally in the West, a patient with massive burns would be taken to an ICU that specializes in burn care. They would have round-the-clock care. They would have all kinds of life support machines. They'd have really high-tech dressings that are embedded with silver and all sorts of just kind of high-tech type, best of the best materials to keep them alive. And then it's a very long rehab process. For us here in Niger, most of the time severe burns do not survive. And so it's a lot of palliative care, a lot of grief and care and support with the families. But then if we do have a patient who survives and has severe burns, we have to get very creative with how we manage their scars. First, how we prevent any kind of infection, because Niger is a very dusty place. We're at the edge of the Sahara Desert where we work, and so the conditions are quite extreme and the resources are very poor. And so we just get really creative using, we make hand splints out of PVC pipe, we make compression garments out of any kind of elastic material we can find, and yeah, we just get really creative.
Really creative, man. Oh my goodness. And it when you talk about it, it's something that kind of it brings you, it's brought you a whole lot of joy. And I know, with our discussions over the years, it's something that you feel like you've, I don't know, flows through you. I mean, for anybody that when you're doing something that you're kind of consumed in, but have felt kind of called to do, and like, this is what I'm supposed to do for this season of my life. I think is a pretty amazing feeling. But I know recently there have been some changes. We're now going from the middle of the desert in Niger, and things are switching drastically, right? I mean, and change happens in life, but sometimes it's like, please hold on to the bar. crazy train.
Yep.
So explaining like where you were at and your feelings kind of going along with that. It's like, ah.
Yeah. So we were out of Niger for about 6 months we were supposed to do some fundraising, recruiting, getting some rest, that sort of thing. We were planning when we came back to relocate to the capital city. And about 3 weeks before we came back, my husband and I just decided that it was the right time to finish this chapter and move on, and maybe we'll be back again. We hope so. We hope to some shorter trips, but we'll be moving to need and providing care through really traumatic situations and times, which is a lot different from what we've been doing.
How is that you? I mean, you have about 5 weeks left in Niger. So how is that like where you're at right now to kind of preparing yourself mentally for what lies ahead? It's got to be a whole lot of different emotions.
It is. It has been an absolute roller coaster. We feel complete peace that this is the right decision for now to be closing this chapter. And we are so incredibly thankful that we have these next 5 weeks to be able to spend time with the people that we care about, that we will probably never see again. People that have been, it really is, because even technology is amazing. You know, we're doing this across an ocean, and it's incredible. We have so many friends and people that have empathy access to a computer. They don't have access to a smartphone. Even just a regular cell phone, they're at the mercy of the phone company. They're at the mercy of a solar panel that they may be able to use to charge their cell phone if they have enough money. You know, for us to be able to have a phone conversation, even just a few minutes, in the loss of these roles, the loss of dreams, the loss of hopes, to be able to grieve all of that while still cherishing the joy of this place that we've called home. Yeah, it's just a roller coaster.
It's heavy stuff.
But it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, I think but it's
you know, we've had some Nigerian friends come.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. Oh wait. Just talking a little bit about it, you know, you had said, oh, she's there, she's not. Mix of emotions. I mean, like you're in the middle of a desert, so you know, this isn't South Jersey Wi-Fi. We got to roll with it, girl. You know, I think of sometimes.
That's right.
There's a whole lot of people who are either scared of change, even though they know it's the right thing to do, or end up kind of sitting put through a season of life when they're supposed to be kind of transitioning to something else. And I look at you where it's literally a lifestyle that's changed. I mean, like as much of a change as you can get in culture, where you've been immersed in a place. You know, I remember sitting on a couch with you, you know, in Jersey, and some of the things you shared about the things you've seen. I'm like, holy smokes, and how God's used you and will continue to use you. But going to two different cultures, because now it's a different season of life, what do you say to that person who is like, it's scary, maybe I shouldn't move, or what should I stay? What do you say to that person?
I mean, first, I would affirm, yeah, it's scary. It is massive. It takes a tremendous amount of strength that often we don't think we have. But there is something waiting in the unknown. And while on this side, it can often feel like it's going to be worse than what we are already struggling with, worse than what we are already working through. the reality is there's beauty everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There is joy everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There is hardship, there is suffering, there is difficulty everywhere, in every season, in every situation. And so I think we have opportunities to grow. We have opportunities to do things, to try things, to accomplish things that we could never imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly can't imagine them if we stay put.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look, my husband and I, we look forward to what is next, because we know that in that time, even though it's going to be different, we're moving to a city where we don't know anybody. We're moving to a city we've only been to visit. I don't even have a job. We don't have a home. We don't even know where we're going to stay. But
That's okay.
we know that that next phase, this one has prepared us for.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one is going to prepare us for something else.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to learn and grow in ways we can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is exciting,
Mm-hmm.
because when I look back at these last 10 years living abroad, there was no way I would be able to anticipate how much richer my life is,
Mm-hmm.
how much better my life is, because I took that step. It was a hard step. It was a scary step,
Mm-hmm.
but it was worth it. And
Yeah.
it was something I would never trade, no matter how hard it's been.
Yeah. I'm going to hit you a little bit here, metaphorically, not
Okay.
literally here, or figuratively. So if you think back to 10 years ago, and when you made that decision, like, and you knew that this is where kind of like you were being led, I'm going to Niger. Where are you from now to then in terms of those feelings where people, I'm sure, were like, what, you're crazy and you're taking a step, like, even I'm sure there's people now saying, why are you leaving where you're at now? It's interesting when you kind of look in hindsight where, gosh, if I think God, everything can enhance you. Everything can make you richer, and life more beautiful. But it's that big, huge step. You took as huge of a step as you can think of. I'm going from the States I'm going to Africa, man. I'm going to the desert.
The Sahara Desert.
I'm like, what? And I admire you. But if you think back to who you were 10 years ago, have you changed?
Oh, tremendously. Yeah.
But isn't it a cool thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. Because I think if I was still who I was 10 years ago, I would have missed out on so much. My perspective is different. My whole outlook on life is really different,
Mm-hmm.
because of those valleys, because of those mountains, because of those crazy bends in the road that I never expected. And there were so many moments where I wanted to call it quits. Mm-hmm. So many times I wanted to buy a plane ticket and just get out of the desert. But when I think about if I had done that, there's so much I would have missed out on. Yeah. So many people. There are so many people I would have missed. Mm-hmm. And sure, many of them I helped, but most of them impacted me. Kids that could have died, kids that did die. Yes, through what I've done for the past 10 years, sure, I've helped a lot of people, but every single one of them have left their fingerprints on my life. Mm-hmm. and have been just a special experience. And I think that's often, at least for myself, and looking forward, it's like, we have this plan of what we will do. Mm-hmm. But as human beings, we have relationships. And I just think, okay, who's next?
Yeah.
Who are going to be the people that are brought into our lives next, that are going to impact us and help us become better,
Yeah.
help us to be kinder, help us to see the world in a way that helps us see its beauty even more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Dude, that's it, but it's beautiful. It's because I think too often we can let fear hold us back, or our outlook on a situation can just be mired in negativity. And this is one of the reasons why, I wanted to talk with you today, is you like legit are one of the most positive people I've ever come across. And I admire you for all you do, and all you've done and you will continue to do. But I think there's like this power in our mentality, and there will be, like you said, valleys, and there will be challenges and storms and ups, joys and victories. But everything, I believe, is how we look at it. I do, and who you surround yourself with. And when you had said, like, you literally have saved people's lives. I'm like, hellofest.com, but you had said what I get, what you receive in turn. And I think when we allow ourselves to be gifted from other people, and the blessings that they can give to us, but it's how we look at it to receive that.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, that domino effect where life is short. You could be dead tomorrow. I could be dead tomorrow. We could live to be 99.9, but it's all about our mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a domino effect, dude.
Fully agree.
And I also, I'm going to shift up.
Yeah.
I'm going to shift a little bit here. And I think about how, when I work with so many parents, and especially parents with young girls, and it's like, I think about what I wish I knew when I was a teenager. I think, when I look at you, dude, we have all these, like, I won't give any names, like famous females that don't embody what it really means, what we want our girls to be. And you embody that in terms of integrity, in terms of ambition, in terms of kindness. And I'm like, the way I had told you yesterday, like, if I, not that I don't not like Wheaties, but I put you on a Wheaties box, baby. Finding those people that for our young people to, I'm serious, you're a hero, you're girl power. I'm all about some hashtag girl power. And I think we need to do a better job as a society saying, what does it mean to be, I'll use this, excuse my language, badass female, like just strong and being used to do amazing things, and kind and good and compassionate. And it's not all about the exterior and money and titles. And so I know I'm shifting big time here, but you embody that. And so for that, I say thank you. But how do we do a better job at kind of showing that definition to our young girls? Totally wasn't in the questions, but I'm just throwing that at you.
Yeah. Oh, no one's ever asked me that before.
Boom.
I think living in a culture for the last 8 years where women are secondary, where women don't have the same opportunities as men, which was very different from how I grew up. I was taught to that I was just as good as boys, that I could be just as smart as boys, that I would have the same opportunities, and that I could fight for those, and I could work hard for them. And that's not the case where I've been working. And yet we see over and over again in history, around the world, that when women and girls are empowered, things change. When a mother understands how to take care of her sick child, how to help her child who has a disability, she moves mountains for that child. It doesn't matter the lack of resources she has. I have worked with mothers who I hand them a little jar of rocks, and they use that to help their child learn how to grasp things and how to use their hands because they don't have toys. So I think for me, when we say girl power, it is about teaching and educating and empowering women to not be secondary.
Yep.
Empowering women to be there, to do anything that they try, to do it with integrity, to do it with honor. Everyone around them, that they have so much value, that they have so much worth. Not just because of the biology to have children, but because each and every woman is spectacular and amazing simply because she is. And yeah, I guess that's what I think of girl power. When I hear that, that's what it means to me. How do we teach our daughters that, and the girls that we have the opportunity to influence? I think it's by instilling values in things like kindness, the value of cherishing others despite how they look, despite what they can offer, but just for the fact that they are. When we teach girls to be kind to those who are different, to encourage instead of gossip, to value creativity and generosity and I had kindness, but I've already said it 6 times.
You know what?
When that's the value.
Yeah, it's power.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? When that is more important. Yeah.
It is, dude,
when kindness is more important than the makeup that I cake on my face every day, that's when we empower our girls. Not that I want, not that I think people should not look nice, and I have nothing against makeup. I just think that when we place so much value on how we look versus how we behave, we lose out on so much of what's inside.
We absolutely overshadow.
And then that what is inside becomes right.
Yeah. Rock on. It's true. Absolutely true. And I think those are powerful definitions and
right. So it doesn't matter how much I paint on my face or how perfect if I am spiteful. Oh no.
Yeah, you're ugly inside, dude. I mean, that's like, and I think, I know my face keeps freezing. Yeah, but it is. I do. I think about, like, as somebody, who's worked in education for a number of years and, in the different capacities of, youth leader or whatever it is, like, we have so many girls who I do believe, and I was one of them, a distorted version of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be beautiful and what it means to be strong. And, and you've impacted me over the years, what it means to be a strong woman and what it means to have girl power. And when I think you finally break free and become confident in who you are, and it's not about the external, it's about the internal. And I think you become even more beautiful on the outside when the inside is shining through. I think we have a task ahead of us, but I think it all comes down so much to kindness, because there's a lot of, that I'm like, you could be super babe, but I'm like, dude, you are yuck, because it's on the inside. And I'm like, it's about kindness, right? I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. So, girl power, dude.
And the beautiful thing about kindness is it translates across cultures and languages. So even if you cannot speak someone's language, even if you mess up every cultural faux pas possible, when you are kind, it speaks volumes. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that translates is the attitude, and when that is humble and kind and genuine, it's seen and it's transparent.
Mm-hmm. And I think it actually draws you to those people. There's like it's a magnet, I think, kind of action. I do. It's like, and I've learned as I've gotten older where I want to be around beautiful hearts and kind hearts, and those that aren't, I just bob and weave. I stay away. You know, and I mean, I think when we learn that, we're healthier, we have more energy, and we project more kindness. Because I think it's a domino effect.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's good stuff. It's super good stuff. But I want to say to you, thank you for projecting kindness. Thank you and James for, the sacrifices you have been making, the impact you've been having across, oceans and in the Sahara. And, I am excited to keep up with you guys and allow our paths to at some point reconnect again.
Definitely.
I thank you for being the definition of girl power and for taking those steps that could be super scary. And, but you're willing to, when it comes to change, I don't know. And when change happens and we're at peace with it, it's a crazy, amazing thing. So I want to thank you, Deb, and for just being epic. I will use that word. I would use many other amazing words, but I know our connection keeps fading in and out here, but I want to say I love you, girl, and I want to say, you and James are my prayers, and thank you for taking the time today. And peace, love, and goodness from Montenegro to Niger. If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks Podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.